Hello and welcome to episode 184 of Sutton Impact Family Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and I'm going to start off giving a lot of love to LeBron. Because my criticism of LeBron in the past, when I compared him to Michael Jordan and Kobe, is that he didn't have that eye of the tiger. That he was, he wanted to win, but not at all costs. And he was like a man among boys in this Houston series. I mean, he was frightening. So I think the Lakers definitely, to me, they're going to be, if they get past the Clippers, which I think they will. And I love both the Heat and the Celtics in the game they play. If LeBron is just focused and Rondo's playing playoff Rondo, they're going to be tough to beat.
And if AD is consistently being what he's been in these playoffs, yes.
Yep. And so my question now that I'll throw to you is, if the Lakers win, does LeBron ride off into the sunset?
Oh, I don't think so, no. I think
I did.
You think he would cash out after this championship?
He doesn't need the money. He's got a lot of things he wants to do with his life. He's in LA. He's won championships in 3 markets. He's brought the Lakers back to prominence. I think you go out on top. You do like Jerome Bettis. You win a Super Bowl and you go out. You've done it. You've done what you're set out to do.
I mean, I know Walter Payton.
I've never seen him just focused on this. Almost, he's angry and humble at the same time. It's kind of interesting. I've never seen this piece of LeBron before.
Yeah. I think, when you're talking about Walter Payton, Jerome Bettis, even Peyton Manning, like, they went out on top, kind of, but they weren't at the top of their game or even considered the best players in the world when they did. LeBron is still, no lower than top 5 in the NBA, depending on where you put him.
Yeah, he's 38 years old.
He is. He's talked about wanting to play with Bronny, his son, who I think is a sophomore or he's going to be a junior.
Well, that'd be interesting. Maybe that'll be the thing that drives.
I mean, because I know that's a motivation for him. And like I said, I think he's so good still. Like I said, because the MVP is a regular season award, I still think that's Giannis's award. But LeBron was the second choice in most people's ballots. And I mean, I don't see that changing next year. I think AD's back next year. And I do think there's a sense of if they win this title, I mean, no one can, there's always difficulties and obstacles to overcome, and certainly playing in the bubble is weird. But I feel like he wants to win one more regular season all out, if you will.
Yeah, okay. We'll see.
And like I said, I still think he's the best player, still arguably the best player in the world. So I don't see why you go out now.
Well, the way he's playing right now, there's nobody playing better than him. And
No.
he is at that level that's almost frightening and, don't get in his way. I mean, he's just really taking charge, kicking ass, and taking names. I mean, they decimated Houston. I thought that would be an interesting series. I thought the Lakers would win, but I thought it was going to be an interesting series. It wasn't an interesting series. It was an ass kicking.
So now let's talk about some losers, just from a game plan standpoint. Let's start with Houston. You have Harden and Westbrook, both over 30, both making a ridiculous amount of money for the next 3 years, and really nothing else worthwhile on that team. Your coach is a free agent. You have a new owner who's kind of cheap. At least that's the word on the street, as they say.
You traded a lot of your future.
You traded a lot of your future. Your GM, Daryl Morey, well, I agree with his comments on China. It's not something a rich capitalist owner wants to hear. And his friends that are also rich capitalist owners, as much as they want to say the NBA cares, I mean, they care mostly about money, I think would be their bottom line. So if your GM's gone and your coach is gone, what do you do with...
Well, D'Antoni says he wants to stay.
He does. But if you're that team, what do you do? Because you're big at, you probably can't move Russ, at least not in a deal that doesn't cost you things to move him. As much as we love Russ. Russ does not look great.
Jason, I don't think they can do anything. I think they're pretty much committed to trying to figure out getting another piece and going for it again. I just don't think they have enough pieces, and I don't think they have enough. They're great in the regular season.
Yeah, because when people
never made a conference final.
I sort of view them a little bit like, I was thinking like NCAA basketball tournament equivalents. Like them losing to the Lakers in the semifinals of the playoffs is about the ceiling of this team in my mind. You know, like the only way I saw them beating the Lakers or the Clippers is if, you know, Harden went on just an epic, something he's never done in the playoffs. But he went, you know, if he averaged like, you know, Jamal Murray numbers from that last series, if he put up, you know, 45 points a game, you know, Russ played well, and, you know, they got, you know, the weird Daniel House story or one of these other guys just to hit, you know, they hit 20, 33s a couple of games. Like, but if they were playing their normal game on a normal trajectory, I didn't see them beating the Lakers or the Clippers. So as disappointing as it is, I think the team as constructed, that was the max level they could be, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they, you know, whatever they were going to do, they were going to do, and that was going to be it. But I think that I don't think anybody saw 5 games.
No.
I mean, and not that 6 would have been dramatically different, but I think it would have felt different.
I think it does.
But those 4 games were just, those 4 wins were just You know, I just watched his face, and I watched the way he drove to the basket. I mean, he was a man among boys.
Is there any world where you would trade Harden if you're the Rockets?
They get one with him.
I mean, they haven't won with him. He's a playoff dud, I think, at this point. I think it's safe to say. In a decade of playoff games, he's been pretty disappointing. And he does seem like he gets a little bit of that Chris Webber hot potato at the end of games if it's important. Like in a game 5, game 6. Like, he doesn't look like the guy that wants the ball all the time. And again, I don't know who is out there you can add to this team that's going to put you above Golden State coming back. You know, a scary team like Brooklyn. The Denver Nuggets seem to be on the rise. Phoenix Suns. I mean, you got a lot of these teams that look like they're building up. Dallas Mavericks. You know, the Lakers and the Clippers are always going to be competitive. So it's like, where's your place if you're Houston, if that's what you have? And I don't know what that is.
And Oklahoma City's got a lot of your draft picks.
Almost all of them. And they're getting real excited. Which I guess would be the one reason you wouldn't want to bottom out, because you don't have any of your own picks.
Yeah.
And then the other team... Yeah, and the other team to talk about is obviously Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, he's got one more year in Milwaukee.
Yeah. And
I think whatever happens next year dictates whether he goes or stays.
It does seem like, again, sort of like the Rockets, like when you, as good as they are in the regular season, we've seen 2 seasons in a row where they're completely shut down in the playoffs. And you know, maybe it's not worth doing a wall of defense to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo during the season, but, you know, and I think, you know, losing Brogdon to Indiana last year, which was kind of a cheap, it was sort of like when the Oklahoma City Thunder gave up Harden. Like, you probably didn't mean, you know, it wouldn't have cost you that much more to keep him for another year. And you got to feel like Malcolm Brogdon, along with Middleton and Antetokounmpo, maybe that's a team that gets past Miami. Whereas without him, they don't. And obviously, if he comes to you and says, I want to be traded, which I can't imagine him saying, but that's based on...
I can't either. But I could see him if they had another disappointing year next year. I could see him leaving in free agency.
I think so, too. And again, you know, the big rumor is, what if Chris Paul goes there? And I don't know what Chris Paul's value is as a 35-year-old with like $80 million left on his contract, as good as he played this year. You know, maybe Oklahoma City...
He elevates a team.
You think he takes them to the next... They're a finals contender at that point?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I think he elevates them. I think he's got enough left in the tank that he can elevate them for 1 year. I don't think it's more than a 1-year buy.
And what do you think is... You know, do you have to give up DiVincenzo and a pick? Like, what do you think you have to give up to get Chris Paul and those giant contracts off of Oklahoma City's books? Because at the beginning of last year, he was untradeable with that contract. And now, all of a sudden, he seems like an asset.
It had to be a Russ. It had to be a big contract to take one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. But I could see them. He would be a difference maker for that team.
Okay.
I'm still not saying they would win the NBA championship, even though I thought they would this year. But they're better with him. They'd be better with Rondo.
Yeah. Well, in the playoffs, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that seemingly, like they said, if it's a TNT game, if it's a nationally televised game or a playoff game, you're getting a completely different player in Rajon Rondo. And look at his career. Like, he's an NBA champion. He's got a great basketball IQ. There was that playoff game, the playoff series they played, it was like a decade ago against LeBron, where he was the best player on that floor. You had KD, you had LeBron, you had all these guys, and Rondo was the best player in that series. But sometimes he's totally disappointing. So he's a weird anomaly, an enigma, if you will.
I think if he's on a good team with good players and a game means something, he's great. You take any of those elements away, he's not great. He's good.
Yeah.
And sometimes he's bad, depending on his attitude.
Which is very, very bizarre.
Yeah.
All right. Probably enough NBA talk for today.
Well, wait a minute. No, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
So let's talk Boston, Miami.
Oh.
Two teams I've really, really, really enjoyed watching in the playoffs.
Yes.
Both of them have, like Jimmy Butler and Marcus Smart are difference makers. They are difference makers. They are always playing hard, always making something happen. Marcus Smart played ridiculously well. I'm not so sure you don't want to keep starting him and bringing Hayward in as a rotation rather than the other way around.
I mean, Smart is just one of those guys. He has that knack. Like, if a loose ball, a block, whatever it is, he has a knack for making that play in that moment, and he's done it since Oklahoma State. So it's,
So who you picking? Who you pick to win that series?
I think I'm picking Miami.
I think this is going to be the best series we're going to see. No, I can't say that because the Clippers and the Lakers would be great. These could be the two best semifinals in years.
Yes, I'm hoping. I think Spoelstra might be the most underrated coach we've had in the NBA as long as I can remember. I watch what the Miami Heat does, and I think he might be a better coach than Brad Stevens. So I give them the advantage there. And I think outside of, I love Tatum and Jaylen Brown are obviously gamers. And we talked about Smart.
Kemba Walker was a disappointment in that series.
And Kemba's been a little bit of a disappointment. And then, Miami, Bam has been phenomenal. Jimmy Butler's, he does whatever he needs to do. If he needs to score 17, he scores 17. If he scores 30, he'll score 30. Those young guys they have, like Hero, and, even you got guys like Kelly Olynyk, like, they remind me, and I know this is a painful subject for us, but, like, when I watch the Miami Heat play, they sort of remind me of the Patriots. They're very malleable. Whoever needs, they seem to, whatever they need to do that game is what that team does. And they don't seem to have egos about it. Like, if Jimmy has to be the guy, he's the guy. If Tyler Hero's hot, Tyler Hero's the guy. They seem to just adjust in a way that other teams don't.
I've watched more NBA basketball this year and since the bubble than I have since I worked for the NBA.
It's crazy.
I know. And I'm enjoying it even more than when I worked at the NBA. I mean, I'm really looking for this. Boston, Miami, to me, it's must-see TV. And if it's the Lakers and Clippers, that's must-see TV. So, I mean, I'm excited about what I'm going to get.
And you seem to, from your comments earlier, I assume you think Lakers beat Clippers?
I just don't, it's going to be a great series. Because Kawhi has that same quality that LeBron and Jimmy Butler and Marcus Smart have. So you got this guy on the court that's just not relentless.
Exactly.
And I think that's the difference between the teams that are left and the teams that are gone.
And
who would you say? There was nobody relentless on Miami. On Milwaukee. Nobody relentless. Russ is relentless, but not Russ with a banged up quad and not having played for a month. That's not relentless. And I don't think that would have been enough to get him over the top anyhow.
No.
It's been good.
Yeah.
Bad day for the Big 12 yesterday.
I think so.
3 major upsets. And probably after I think about it, maybe they weren't. I mean, Coastal Carolina beat Kansas both season openers now.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa State got schooled, and Kansas State got sloppy and lost. That's what those are 3 interesting games. I think today we're going to see the Big Ten vote to play football.
they have to at this point?
Come to the conclusion that they yelled sharp too early. Yeah, I think they're going to relent. I think they're going to play, and they'll probably start. Let's see, what's today? September 14th, 13th.
Give them like a month.
So yeah, I say they'll either start the week of like October 15th or October 20th, somewhere around in there.
We have, you know,
And they'll play. But they're going to play. Now I don't know what. I haven't heard any noise at all out of the Pac-12, so maybe they're not going to do anything. Maybe they are going to sit out.
well, I think you have, you know, you've got the Woodward revelations right now, where, you know, the Orange Idiot has finally come on the record and admitted that he's downplayed a virus that's incredibly deadly and easy to spread. I'm a little bummed at Woodward that he didn't bring that information, he didn't release that tape 6 months ago.
Agreed.
I mean, I know you're trying to sell a book, but I mean, you know, not real excited about that part. But I mean, I think I've seen more and more people talk about, like, I know the Pac-12, like their doctors were very worried about the heart conditions. And that seems like that is popping up. You're seeing that more and more. There was a teacher that died. There's been a few other people that have died from COVID, and it's heart related from COVID. And these are young people under 30. So I think that's what the Pac-12 is concerned about. But you heard Kevin Colbert's conversation, right?
I don't think I did.
He was on The Ringer, and he was talking about, you know, when it comes to the draft this year, if it's a guy, you know, right now, if it's, you know, assuming so if it's a Big Ten, if it's a SEC guy versus a Pac-12 guy, Kevin Colbert basically said if they're close, he's taking the guy he saw play football this year. So, and I assume, and he basically admitted that that's the way a lot of GMs feel. That, you know, if it's two linebackers and you have them both rated close to each other, but one guy you haven't seen in a year and the other guy you've seen play regular football, you're taking the guy that played regular football every time. And I'm sure, you know, the athletic directors are like, look, you know, even if it just affects this draft class, it's going to affect future guys going to our schools. You know, if there's another pandemic 5 years from now, and the SEC played and the Pac-12 didn't play, maybe we're losing 10% of the guys that, you know, instead of getting them to come to the Pac-12, now they're going to go to the SEC. So I think they're looking long-term, you know, competitiveness, money. Like, there's just so much, I mean, and
there's still so much unknown.
And as the players have pointed out, though, if they're doing everything right, if they're testing, if they're social distancing, and they're wearing masks and protective gear, it doesn't seem like it's going to matter if they're, you know, if they're in classrooms or if they're in meetings with football play. Like, you know, like I said, we're bringing back the television industry, and we're doing everything we can, and we're following rules, and we're probably better off than 90% of the people in the world because we're, you know, we have. You know.
So my observation yesterday, I watched a lot of football. Coaches wore masks, didn't use them.
Yeah.
You know, they'd have the mask on, and then when they want to talk, they'd pull the mask down like they couldn't talk with the mask on. And then I saw them spitting and doing everything they're not supposed to do. I saw
exactly
socially distance. They were getting in people's faces, and so you know it was the coaches. And then I saw the K-State fans; they weren't socially distanced. I mean, the student section or whatever it was crazy.
Yeah.
The Florida State section. So I think if we see something, it's not going to be the players; it's going to be fans and coaches.
It's true, but I mean, yeah, it does sort of feel like
conflicting players.
Yeah. It does also feel like the temperature of the country is, you know, we didn't act like New Zealand, even with the Woodward interview, you know, where Trump is admitting, you know, now all of his people that were anti-maskers are sort of like, oh, well, now we look like idiots. But at the same time, the pulse of the country seems to be like, let's just get back to normal. We'll deal with the consequences. Like, that seems to be what people want. The players, the coaches, obviously the executives and the TV, the general fans. So, I mean, it almost seems like if it's going to be a harsh lesson learned, it's going to be a harsh lesson learned. But people would rather see that than, you know, what's happening now. So.
Well, let's see, because, you know, the combination with flu season now. So, you know, I was at the doctor's the other day. I'm going to get my flu shot. He said, wait till the end of September, get your flu shot. I said, I'm there.
Yeah. And again, that's going to be a weird.
It's a crazy case. Publix will give you a $10 gift card for getting a flu shot.
Huh.
I think it's great. I get my blood pressure medicine from Publix for free.
Wow.
So I got a lot of respect for Publix.
Yeah, I think, you know, I know they took some crap because I think they donated the NRA a couple years ago, but I feel like, you know, They treat their employees well. They offer raises, benefits, competitive pay, college tuition. Like, they're a really nice company.
Yeah, they do good things.
Now, we did get NFL football. It kicked off Thursday night, and the Chiefs look awesome.
The Chiefs looked, yes, like they got a brand new gun with brand new ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, the only criticism of the Chiefs was Andy Reid's face mask fogged up.
Yeah.
I mean, they dominated that game, and that game was set. You know, if you're the NFL and you're picking that game, you're thinking, well, I got a ratings buster. It's going to be a real close game all the way through. And it just wasn't a game. It wasn't a game. I turned it off.
Although the last time they played, it was competitive for about the same amount of time. The Texans got a tiny lead, and the Chiefs destroyed them. But if you're another NFL team, I mean, Frank Clark looked dominant. Chris Jones looked dominant on defense. That new rookie playing next to Mathau looked awesome. So their defense looks like it somehow got better. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked...
a very fast team.
Yeah.
On both sides of the ball.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked like MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew from a while ago. Just bouncy, small, but compact, powerful.
Yeah.
And
5'7", 210 pounds.
And Sammy Watkins looked good. And they still have Hardman and Robinson. And that doesn't even count Tyreek Hill or, Travis Kelce. Like, where do you pick your poison on that team?
Yeah, and with that defense, an off game for Kansas City looks like it's going to be 21 points.
Yeah.
Are you going to score 21 points on the defense? Probably not.
And like I said, Frank Clark looks like an absolute. They're between Chris Jones and Frank Clark. They've got an awesome pass rush. They can get home with 4, which is what you want to do as a defense. And you're gonna have to pass most of the game to keep up with the Chiefs. And like I said, on offense, I mean, if you double Tyreek Hill, you still got Sammy Watkins, Mecole Hardman. You got Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming out of the backfield, Travis Kelce over the middle. Like, it just did seem like they were almost like making sure, like, okay, Sammy Watkins got a touchdown, Edwards-Helaire got a touchdown, Kelce got a touchdown, we got one for Sammy Watkins. At the end of the game, let's make sure Tyreek Hill's happy. We'll get him fed too. Like, it's like they have like a fantasy team as their team.
Well, 6 weeks from now, you know what the conversation's going to be?
What's that?
Are they going to be the first team since the Dolphins to go undefeated during the regular season?
Oh.
And that's going to be your next conversation.
I think someone's going to get them at some point this year, and I think they're okay with that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'd have to look at the schedule, but I feel like there's going to be one of those weird games. Like, although, I know the Chargers usually play them tough, but it's hard to imagine that's a bad Chargers team. The Broncos.
They go on the road.
Yeah.
They go on the road somewhere in the Northeast, and it's sleeting and snowing and slows down everything. And, you play like a Derrick Henry or something like that. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not saying they're going to go undefeated, but I'm saying that's going to be, you're going to hear that conversation.
And you think divisional, because usually there's a team in the division that gets you once. But, Von Miller going out for the year makes Denver a lot less formidable on defense, like a lot. I think you have those weird mystery teams. Like, are the Raiders any good? I don't know. As far as teams they play 12.
The Raiders might be good, but they're not Kansas City good.
No, but like every year you play you play your division, twice a year, every year, and eventually maybe somebody comes up with something that it's a little gimmicky and takes you out. But like I said, if they stay healthy, we both picked them to win the Super Bowl, but I don't see that. Now, like you said, it's a matter of do they go undefeated or they just because they're. And I would say the quality of football, even without the preseason, looked great.
Now listen, Jason, we didn't pick them to win the Super Bowl because all we did was pick our playoff.
Oh, oops, sorry. Spoiler alert. Well, that's my Super Bowl pick because I don't see anybody picking anybody but them in any sort of rational way.
It's good. Yeah, it's be interesting. And especially, with the teams with, those 17,000, whatever they had in the stands in Kansas City were loud.
And I guess
they were loud.
Should we address the booing?
We didn't talk about it.
Well, when they, I thought Ryan Clark was incredibly. I love Ryan Clark as a Steeler, and I think he's a fantastic ESPN personality. And did you see his quote?
I don't know if I did or not. Go ahead.
he basically was saying, because what happened in the game, in case anybody didn't see, they played the national anthem, and then after the national anthems were over, the players joined arms on both teams for a moment of unity, is what they called it.
Right.
And Ryan Clark said if you did that moment of unity for breast cancer, they would have applauded. If you did it for autism, they would have applauded. If you did it for vets, they would have given it a standing ovation. But when you did it for unity of race, it got booed. And that says more about the people than anything else. And I can't say it. I mean, I agree with him entirely. And he said, when J.J. Watt was like, we did everything right. It wasn't during the anthem. It wasn't political. It was just a statement of unity. He's like, I don't quite understand where the boos came from. And, Brian Clark and some other people were like, you understand it. You just don't want to have to think about why it happened. And I think sadly it's true.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
And again, they were audible boos in a stadium that wasn't that full. So.
Yeah. But the state's a little red.
Yeah, very, very red. Yes, indeed.
Not just Chiefs red either.
No, definitely not.
Well, getting lost in all this shuffle is baseball.
Not surprisingly, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, the baseball playoffs are going to start in about less than 3 weeks. And I love baseball. I can't say if I'm that interested. I mean, I would follow the Padres because I like all those young players.
Tatis.
I like the Yankees just because I like somebody to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I like the A's because they do more with less than anybody, and they're like the Rays. And so those are 4 teams that I would follow. And if once those 4 teams are eliminated or not part of it, then I think my interest goes out the window. I get too much NFL, too much college football, and too much NBA playoffs yet. And NHL playoffs. Lightning are 2-1. They play again today.
Yeah.
And that'll depend on how severe that injury was to Brayden Point. That's a big loss that he couldn't play the last game. Plus the other guy got suspended.
So now looking back to June, if we do, I know it's easy to play Captain Hindsight, but do you think if baseball had been the first ones out, if they had figured out some way to get on the field early, that you'd feel any differently about baseball? Or do you think this is still a case of, I would have been interested in baseball then, but the fantastic NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, NFL, NCAA football would have just drowned it out again?
I think baseball would have been on the stage by itself for a longer period of time. Like May, June.
Right.
If they could have got their act together. That would be, it'd be a different thing. It'd be a different thing.
Like, do you think the average sports fan that's like, because I feel like baseball has definitely fallen down. Like, if baseball in 1980 was the number 1 sport after football, now it's, much further down the pecking order. But do you think that they would have been able to carry that momentum, or do you think, like most years, once football started, they would kind of fade into the background regardless?
They always chase the football to some extent.
Right.
But if they would have had more of a foothold, it wouldn't be as drastic.
Because I do feel like
I
people...
want to see what the baseball ratings are this week compared to college football, compared to the NBA, compared to the NFL. They're going to be last. Well, not last, because the college football really didn't play anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have any marquee games yet.
No.
Any real conference games. I mean, you had Notre Dame and Duke, and you had Wake Forest and Clemson. And, those are 2 yawners.
Well, I think you always want to tune in for Clemson, because you got, Trevor Lawrence and...
Yep. I mean, that's what you tuned in for, but then the game was over.
Yeah, it was over quick, yeah. It's a very sad day for baseball. Because the only person I know at work that's talked about baseball, there's a big, giant Dodgers fan, and the Dodgers are so loaded, and it seems like maybe this is the year they get over the hump, so you understand why the Dodger person would be invested still. But
yeah, and that's the Dodgers are going to be like my Yankees in the National League. That I'll probably root against the Dodgers, I'll probably root against the Yankees. And I'll root for the A's, and I'll root for the Padres.
It makes sense.
Yeah. We had a big sports show today. Wow.
We did.
Any entertainment, any food?
Entertainment, I pretty much stuck with. I'm really enjoying The Vow. I can't wait to see the conclusion of that tonight. It's been a really compelling documentary. Kind of crazy, absolutely crazy, but yeah.
How many episodes is it about?
I think it's just 4. I think this is our last one tonight.
No, I think it's 6 or 7.
Oh, is it really?
I think it's a monthly.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 4. Okay, well, even better. So if you're not watching,
I'll tell you what. Last week, Jason, I decided I need to find something to watch after the vow.
Oh.
Because I had nightmares about the vow last week.
Yeah, it's
emotionally draining. It's emotionally draining the way Ozark was, but this is true.
And
so it's even scarier.
And it's shockingly true.
Yeah.
And again, if you watch that first episode, you can see where they draw some.
I thought it was a good thing. Yeah, I agree.
You can really feel yourself. Yeah.
Yes. You thought, hey, this is a good thing for people. This will help people. This will be a great thing. This is science. This is analytics. This is a real approach to this issue of self-worth and self-definition. And then it takes a hard left.
A very hard left.
So people, if you haven't watched it, go back on demand and watch it, get caught up, because it's going to be a ride.
And I've continued to watch Lovecraft Country, which I'm still very in on. This last episode was a little weird because it almost felt like I was watching an Indiana Jones movie. But it continues to keep me intrigued. The acting is really good. It's well shot. For anybody wondering, while it is, there is a lot of historical and racism and all those things in it, it is weird because it is Lovecraft. So you're going to get, ghosts and monsters and, crazy stuff mixed in with that. So, that's something to keep in mind if that's, because I know that's not everybody's bag, it really gets into the fantasy elements, but I'm really liking it. So I'm still involved in that. And then I think I really have those have been the two that have been the things I've stayed most on top of, I would say.
I have one more sport comment I want to make.
Oh, yeah.
Sharon Robinson came out to say that she thinks Jackie Robinson's number 42, retiring that for all diversity. And I just think that's a ludicrous statement. I think that if anybody, Jackie Robinson would be banging the drum to retire Clemente's number. And you should retire 21 for the all Latino players. If you retire 42 is retired. I thought that was a great thing, but I think 21 should be retired as well. And I just didn't like how she said that. I thought it was, if he could be racist, it was racist.
Exactly. No, it was, yeah, you just look at the players talk, especially when you look at the Latino players talk about Roberto Clemente, it's not who did more Olympics. They both were great men that did great things for their, respective people. And it's not a competition. It's not, you can have both people on. You can honor both. I don't know.
It's just not that, do the right thing.
Exactly.
Well, like all the power players, they were 21.
Yeah, and sadly, it was beautiful.
That was a nice gesture.
Exactly. And I guess to round out the show, I had no food moments this week.
And I didn't go out anywhere, although I had people reaching out to me on Twitter asking me what was for dinner the next night after I posted some dinner pictures. Mom made, from the George Bush Ranch cookbook, Mom made chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes, gravy, and homemade county line bread.
Ooh.
That was a killer night.
That sounds like it, yeah.
And you know what, Jason, instead of using cube steak, I bought beef tenderloin and just rolled it flat.
It makes a difference?
Not only was it good, it was tender.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I would say, having grown up and been exposed to moms back in Stillwater, Kentucky Fried, and then obviously our own mothers, Kentucky.
Yep.
I think a lot of people don't know what chicken fried steak is because a lot of people have only had a chicken fried steak nugget, and it's not the same thing. It's not supposed to be deep fried in a basket. That's not chicken fried steak. And I think for a lot of people, that's the only chicken fried steak they've had, which makes it not as good, It needs to be, either where you squirt the thing right on the hot skillet, or you use the cast iron pan, and you're frying it, but it's not like a French fried deep fried basket. So if you can get really good chicken fried steak, you should do it. But a lot of places just do they do the deep fried chicken nugget essentially, and it doesn't quite work that way. So.
Well, my food moment this week is going to be today. We have a Sutton tradition that every opening NFL Sunday is lasagna Sunday.
Yes.
And so Mom cooked the gravy for 6 hours yesterday, and it'll cook a little bit longer today, and it's going to be killer.
Awesome.
So I'll be posting pictures of it on Twitter, and wishing that Jason and Dan were here to share with us.
And I would like to be there to share that too. I will give. We're full back swing at work now, so we're working our 60-hour weeks. We're there every day, and we got a new caterer this year, and this new caterer is really, really good. Not to dismantle. I mean, if you work in film and TV, like you're catering for a couple hundred people, and I think when you cater for that many people, like the food quality, there's a ceiling, I would say. But one thing that these caterers remind me of going to like a lot of like Ma and Pa or some of the smaller startup restaurants where they take so much pride in their food that they want you to love. It's not just we're feeding the crew, let's do our thing and get out of here. They go all out. And they made some Asian chicken on one day. They had woks and it was like really crispy and had a great seasoning on it. They had the smoker out yesterday, or Friday, I should say, not yesterday. It's Sunday. And they smoked ribs and chicken, and it was really, really good.
That's good.
Yeah. And I know people can't just go to that restaurant in New Orleans because it's our caterers on a movie set. But it was still really good, and I just thought I'd give them. That was my best food this week, so I thought I'd give them a shout out.
Well, everybody enjoy your first NFL Sunday. Enjoy everything we talked about today, the NBA playoffs, college football. Just keep wearing your mask. Understand that it is serious. Wear the mask. The best thing to protect you. Get a flu shot and vote in November. If you haven't registered, get off your ass and go vote. Go register and then go vote.
And also, on a lighter note, good luck on your fantasy teams.
Yes. Good luck on your fantasy teams.
So we'll talk next week. We'll talk NFL Week 1. We're going to have our weekly Steeler moment, which we'll do at the end of the podcast for, Steeler haters out there, which is fine. And then, some food and some other stuff. So stay tuned.